Heyo, Patrick, how you doing, bud?
Not too bad at all. We're back for round two.
We are on arc 2 with Jay Bhattacharya on Dad Saves America, and we're just gonna get right into this and let this man cook and get the back half of this video covered because there's lots of things that really bear thinking on and weighing in on.
Not to get excited about the ideological kinds of, because it's to me everything is like, well, let's parse the data and try to see what's working here. I don't know of an answer that works across the board, if you will. I do think there are ways we can improve markets in healthcare systems, and it's actually shocked me that the American healthcare markets have not adopted them. Right? Insurance companies have a very strong incentive to make sure that you should only get the care that you really will provide like value to you, and not give you care that does nothing for you.
Right. That's a waste of medical resources, right? If I'm getting services I don't need, someone else who might actually need that service isn't getting it because I front loaded on it and I've used that resource.
And by the way, that's the way it should work in principle. But how many times have we read horror stories from the United States where people are denied for the silliest of reasons by their healthcare coverage?
Right, or somebody gets something that they just really don't need. And I'm not talking about cosmetic surgery. I mean, procedures and things that are just unnecessary, or they're prescribed things that don't particularly help in their instance. But in looking for validation, they want to get some kind of prescription to
but then you see ridiculous scenarios where, say, if a guy loses a finger, it'll cost him around $25,000 that he doesn't have to put the finger on because, it's classified as cosmetic by insurance companies and so on. It's
right.
Yeah, healthcare, as I say, healthcare companies are there to make money, not there to spend it.
Right, they're for profit, for sure.
Yeah.
That's why there's lots of denial letters for things, and you're like, okay, this is the textbook scenario for the thing that I need, and you've said no. So the insurance company says, nah, we're not going to do that, and then you have to refile. And eventually they're like, yeah, okay, you can have the thing. Right.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But they're really bad at that. They're really bad at rewarding doctors that are wise, that give you good advice, that give you good outcomes. We pay for the services you get rather than the outcomes you get.
Yeah,
that's super difficult too, right? So if I go into the office, to the doctor's office, and I'm like, whine, cry, bitch, complain, and the doctor's like, look, whatever you think is going on, we've run some tests and those things aren't going on, right? So we're going to do nothing, right? But if a doctor says you don't need it, then someone doesn't get paid for providing a service, which is why you pay for services and not for outcomes, right?
But doctors are also there to make sure that their paymasters don't get charged too much either. So they could be bonuses there attached to denying people as well, which has happened.
Yes, that is a fact. Here we go.
And which is,
oh, go ahead.
Crazy scenario.
Yes, absolutely.
System doesn't have to be structured that way. That's a really weird market way for a market to be structured. Why doesn't the market restructure itself so that it pays for outcomes rather than for services?
It seems like if we had rational expertise, that one way you could solve for this and end up in a better model than we have, it wouldn't be utopia, but it seems like it would be better, is for the federal government, maybe just at the state level, but let's just say federal government, to basically provide everyone with what looks like catastrophic health insurance. So we're not going to pay for anything up until a certain threshold. So you got to come out of pocket for it, which means you got to care about how much it costs, which means you've got to negotiate and pick.
Right. And then also that's when the market can compete, right? If it's everything except for the catastrophic healthcare, like if you get the leukemia, if you get the bad cancer, if you get the horrific thing.
But the problem with that market that he's talking about is a lot of these companies, even though they're independent from each other, have a tendency to work together. Set the prices.
Right. No, it's not a conspiracy. It's this is better if all of us do it this way.
Yes.
Right? It's not a monopoly.
I know, by the way, I know it's highly illegal for them to do, but everyone knows they do it.
Right. Well,
You
for
know,
sure.
if Comcast, for instance, puts their monthly subscription up to by $5,
Mhm.
guaranteed everybody else is going to put it up as well.
Right. And that's where the regulation comes in the attempt to stop that. They're not
Yeah,
colluding. They're not colluding,
Yes.
but it is better for that market if everybody goes up $5, right?
Yes.
And then you're
And
also going
that-
to end up with bad faith actors in these instances as well, right?
Yeah.
Right. It should in theory reduce cost overall if the big items, the big ticket items are handled, right? Because that should generate competition in the space, right? But if not so much collusion, but it's better if we all charge X amount for this thing, then they will do that, right?
Yeah, and that's what the failure of the US system is. They're waiting for the market to solve a problem that the market will not do.
Right, but I think his suggestion's pretty good, though.
Yeah, it is a good idea in the magical wonderland that he's talking about, but in reality, it's not going to work because most companies are there to make a profit.
Right,
they are going to work together, even though they're not supposed to.
And a lot of times in making money, there are no good faith actors. They just get the money, right?
Exactly. There's never any sentiment in business.
Right. All right, here we go.
Places that are giving you a good deal. But if you end up with leukemia or you get hit by a car or you get HIV AIDS or one of these things that, is going to be really expensive and is that tail that you were talking about, you're not going to go bankrupt. You're going to be backstopped. That's fine. But what we're not going to do is sort of take over the whole thing and micromanage every single decision everyone makes about everything and tell you, oh, we're going to cover breast pumps when you get pregnant, even though you've had 9 months to save for a breast pump definitionally. That feels like something that irrational left and right in like the before times could have been like, okay, yeah, you know what? Not this super top-down picayune telling us which procedures to get and which are good or no, we'll just backstop you so you don't go bankrupt. We'll spread that cost across the whole population. That's insurance. And then figure it out. And then you'll get the best of the 1950s. And I say
there's an ideological bent to that too, right? Whatever group is in power, if they think certain kinds of things are acceptable, then those are the kinds of things that are going to be pushed, advantageous to society or not. Whatever it is in the two-party system we have that one group thinks is better than the other, then that's the thing that gets pushed, right?
And I think that's the difference with when, say, the European is looking at US politics. Is in Europe, most of our countries have a multi-party coalition for most of our governments. So when you have different parties and different voices putting together, say, a bill or a budget or whatever, you're getting different ideas put into it.
Right, coalition governments for sure, like Germany.
Yes.
And
the problem is with America, with your two-party system, is the Democrats think that everyone should have health care and everything should be free. The Republicans then are completely opposite, where they think everyone should carry their own water and let the market dictate. There doesn't seem to be any middle ground or any discussion of a middle ground. Either.
Right, and with a two-party system, they're going to push further apart. And then it's also going to create a situation where Democrats, other Republicans, and then Republicans, other Democrats. And then they get to, by bent of saying, well, you don't believe how I believe, you're wrong, right? It gets to be burdensome, and it gets to be a burden for the populace, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, when you talk to a lot of young people, say from the United States, is they'll either go very, very left or very, very right. There doesn't seem to be any middle ground left or any middle ground ideas left around the ether, as they say.
Right. Well, they don't want to collaborate. They just want to be right, and then they want to be validated for their position.
And we saw that with one of the longest running lockdowns in American history there recently, where they were both so entrenched in their decisions that none of them wanted to sit down and discuss a solution. It was unbelievable.
Stuck in their houses for a long time. Our educational system suffered. Our children suffered. It was bad. It was super bad.
Yeah, very, very bad. And that all it came down to was them sitting inside in a room and discussing something, some sort of middle ground. But I think, unfortunately, those days are pretty much numbered because they're both now set on a course of I am right and the other guy is wrong, and that's it.
Yeah, they've been othered. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
That because, I said before we started, my grandfather was a doctor and my grandmother, and I went back and looked, and you could get the full cost of delivering a baby in 1950 was like $1,200 cash. It wasn't covered by insurance for reasons that are obvious if you understand insurance, which is to say, it's not rare or unforeseen. I know why it happened. I know when it's going to happen. You can't insure me against it. I know when it's happening. It's like saying, can you insure me for the car wreck I'm going to get myself into tomorrow? It's like, no, I can't. Today, that same set of procedures, even with all the insurance, is even more out of pocket than it was in 1950 in real dollars, in present dollars, inflation adjusted. So it seems like what most of all this inflation and protection has done has basically been to pay for a bunch of unproductive medical services and drive the cost of all of it through the roof such that we aren't even getting more care when we need it.
So he's failing to take into account that we came off the gold standard in 1971, and we've discussed why that is before. So $1,200 in 1950 was a really sizable chunk of money. You can buy a car for $1,200. You know what I'm saying? Like a functional, pretty darn good vehicle in 1950 for $1,200, right?
Yeah, but I think, as I keep saying, I don't think people quite understand why you would have to gold standard. Because your population grew and the money in circulation and your national debt outstripped what you had in gold reserves.
Right.
And even more so now.
Oh, even more so now, yeah, for sure.
And I think, unfortunately, when you hear people on about, oh, we should go back to the gold standard, especially in the United States, you can't but help but laugh at them going, you owe 5 point something trillion at the moment.
Well, right. Well, and then if you understand
in circulation of economy, the Fort Knox, where all your gold is worth what? 250, maybe 300 billion at most.
Well, look at this. In 1985, there was about $2.78 trillion in play. Now there's $23 trillion in play. Yeah. Right? And the lower 90% only has access to 35% of that money, whereas in 1985, they had access to 65% of it. So, yeah, and I don't think he's taking into account that that's what's happened with the money.
Yeah, the rich got richer and the poor got poorer, which just happened across, by the way, most of the G20. We can all kind of agree on that a small bit.
Mm-hmm. And the 1% is definitely doing work.
Yeah, and it was kind of, everyone is kind of, I would say, romanticizing the 1950s and 60s, or even the 80s. I'm thinking of in Ireland. Oh, we should go back to this time and that time. I grew up in a lot of those times. Trust me, we do not want to go back there.
No, you do not.
But I think people are better off now if they really sit down and look at their lives and look at where they are compared to the rest of the world. They're not doing too badly.
Oh, no, for sure not.
We're getting more expensive care, and we're still coming out of pocket for it, and we're paying more in taxes and we're paying more in premiums. Is that a fair characterization of the system, or am I trapped in my own ideological bubble?
No, I think both left and right agree that is a fair characterization of the system. And if you squint, left and right also agree with your sort of like broad solution. Actually, the only fight is over where do you draw the line and say, okay, we want to cover versus we don't want to. It should be left, and the left tends to be more expansive in the set of things it wants to cover, and the right tends to be maybe less expansive. I mean, I'm painting with too broad a brush, but that's roughly speaking.
So there's a bill that was signed into law quite a while ago in the United States concerning dialysis. And dialysis became a completely covered thing. It functionally became a right to get dialysis, right? Whereas people had to pay for it before, and there was a market, and it wasn't. It was an issue, but it was okay. I need to check my budget, and I need to make sure that I can pay for this thing. Now dialysis is insanely expensive, but completely covered. right? So that's
Right.
a burden on the
But that's,
taxpayer, right?
yeah, that would be more the marketplace taking advantage.
Yes.
But it sounds like more than the individuals.
Mhm.
Because if you're on dialysis, you cannot work. For the most part, you can't. Some people can, some people can't. So you don't actually have a form of income to pay for it as such.
Right.
It'd be like insulin. There's a lot of stuff that I think should be covered by society, but also the price should be regulated by the government. How much these companies can gouge out of the system.
Well, now if they can charge pretty much whatever they want, force the government to pay or the insurance company to pay.
Yeah, the problem is if you allow the free market is a wonderful idea and it works pretty well in lots of scenarios. But sometimes you have to have boundaries there as well. Otherwise, they will completely which every business will take complete advantage of it.
Right. And the thing that John Popola said was, we'll backstop you for the massively expensive cancer or the leukemia or the brain cancer or whatever, right? The car accident, that kind of thing. But we're not going to pay thousands of dollars to the ER for you to get a blister handled or a hangnail or a sniffle, right?
And by the way, everyone fully agrees with what he's saying there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, non-emergencies should not be covered by anyone.
Pretty much, and that's where the market that's where the market should come into play.
But
and with that competition, then the price goes down for lancing a boil, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
I fully agree with him there. But I think the likes of say dialysis, insulin, pretty much what people do need to live should be covered by the state, but with a cap on it.
Right.
That would probably, but I know that won't happen. I know that won't happen because,
the things you're talking about are things that prevent imminent death. If I need insulin and I will die if I don't get it, it seems like that would be a good idea to ensure people get. And dialysis, but the dialysis thing has wrecked a lot of our medical infrastructure as far as it being available all the time, right? And again, a lot of that's because people are just way less healthy. They're just way less healthy. They're going to end up getting to that point where they need dialysis.
Like, by the way, we're guilty. We're having the same issues too in Ireland for the last couple of years. More so in the last, after COVID, it really kind of hit home, where the National Children's Hospital in Ireland, their senior medical profession, was on the news saying he has 10, 11, 12-year-old boys and girls coming in because they're so overweight with heart conditions.
Yep.
Because we're going so bad at cooking for ourselves or maintaining our health and so on.
Yeah, we forgot how to exercise and eat good food. And a lot of that in the United States is a lot of our food is just bad. You've told me before, unless it's spirits, we pretty much won't buy American stuff that's foodstuffs. You know what I'm saying? It's unsafe.
Like, I was talking to a farming relation of mine, and we were talking, about different markets. It takes between 9 to 10 months roughly to raise a calf to slaughter. In most of Europe, it depends where, depends in different parts, but usually 9 to 10 months roughly.
Right.
Give or take. They can fatten a cow for market in the States with all the hormones in less than 3 months.
Yeah, chickens are bad too. Chickens are really bad. The factory chicken problems.
Even when they turn around, and I see a lot of, especially influencers, on about, I bought this down Whole Foods. It's a grass-fed such and such. What they're forgetting is, if I leave the cow out in the field for 1 hour a week, I can stamp and say that's grass-fed.
Because it ate grass once.
It ate grass once.
I fed it grass once.
That's how as I said, that's how unregulated.
Oh, it's unhinged. For sure.
Yeah. That's one of the few things I do agree with your new health minister, Kennedy. When he turned around and he was on about, processed foods and the dyes and everything else.
For sure.
It's actually one of the few times I actually did agree with that gentleman, that bringing in regulations and when it comes to that is highly important.
Yeah, well,
he's right.
Make America healthy again. There you go.
Yes.
All right, here we go.
And so I think the question then is just a matter of like, where does it belong? But I think the key thing to me is the cost problem. It is extremely expensive, especially in the United States. We spend almost $1.05 of national income goes to healthcare. that is way too expensive for what we get. And it's
1 in 5, the results are not there for that. It's
No.
$1 in $5, then literally everybody should be getting all of the healthcare all the time with no issue. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
For that much money. It's like our education system. So in the United States, we spend on average $27,000 per student, which is the highest in the world. And our outcomes are getting worse, right?
They're getting worse.
Yeah. So
because it's all been wasted on administration and different bits and bobs.
Yeah.
Instead of doing the frontline service.
Right. Making sure we have highly paid, competent teachers that children can understand, right? And know that that individual is taking care to give them the best education they can. And these school boards give themselves tons and tons of extra dollars because they're in charge of this district and all this money, you know?
We did a video in the past about a certain board, school board.
Yes.
And each person, including the head, each person was on 200,000 plus.
Yes. And the teachers were making 35. Yeah. It's horrible.
Yeah. Now if you think about it, imagine how many teachers you could hire if you just got rid of that board and made it just 100% volunteer board.
Yeah, you have the clout and the power, but you don't get a lot of money for it, and you have to do something else that contributes to society, not just sit on that board and make a bunch of wild rules and then vote to pay yourself more money than even your most senior paid teachers. Like,
the head of that board was on more money than my Taoiseach in my country. And I was sitting there kind of going, wait a minute, he's only running a school board.
Yeah. Yeah.
My Taoiseach was running the whole ass country. And he doesn't even get half that wage.
Right. Here we go.
There's a root problem of, and you also have, like, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 million people who have sort of less insurance, but basically don't even have that catastrophic insurance. So we're spending all this money and you have a large chunk of people that don't have it. The central problem is the cost, right? So you had Obamacare. What it tried to do is expand who got insurance. The Medicaid expansion was the most important part of Obamacare. It was called the Affordable Care Act. It wasn't called Obamacare, right? But it did nothing for actually making care affordable. Care has gotten much less affordable since Obamacare was passed. In fact, the structures that are in place, it's systematic almost that it would produce that kind of outcome. Like, it's more capture of the regulatory structures by powerful entities like health insurers and pharmaceutical companies and so on. And so the market is less efficient, works less well. And so you have this, it's as if the one thing we want to solve, which is, let's give most people that this peace of mind about this, like, catastrophic outcome. Well, until you solve the cost problem, we're not going to be able to afford to do that. Right? You won't, you
figure out $1 in $5 that is spent by our government, but it goes to healthcare. The solution should be much, much better. It should be much better.
We should really investigate it properly.
Right.
Maybe get a board. We get people to investigate. When I say investigate, maybe to get a couple of independents on the board. I know it's probably hard with a two-party system, but maybe put a couple of independents people to look into where the leakage in the system is.
Well, we talked about it in the last episode. There's a lot of leakage because, well, SNAP and Social Security cards and all that stuff, people who shouldn't be getting the benefit, or multiple people or multiple accounts paying into one individual, right?
I would not be surprised if the leakage in our system is not actually down to the individual people. It's probably down to a lot of doctors and a lot of hospitals gouging the system, padding the bill, as they say. You know, that's where probably a lot of the leakage will be.
Well, there'll definitely be some there.
Greedy.
But if you see that Social Security cards being issued to people who haven't been born yet and people who are older than the oldest American, thousands upon thousands and thousands of people who shouldn't get the benefit, and all you'd have to do, just like Elon Musk told Joe Rogan, call them. You can find them, whoever they are, and if you call them, no answer, no response, no nothing, kill the account, kill everything attached to it. And that would reduce issues by hundreds of billions of dollars. But for whatever reason, they're just not doing it. The money's going somewhere. We don't know where, but it's going out, and then they don't even want to investigate it. No, we don't have to investigate that. We kind of do. I kind of want to know why you're taxing my ass and throwing my money away. Why are you throwing my money away?
And they should, and there should be a massive investigation into that across the board. By the way, not just in California, but across the entire United States, to all the states. Because I see a lot of states like Texas and Florida and everywhere else blaming California for everything. You're kind of going, wait a minute. Most of SNAP benefits are going to your states, not California. So why not investigate all of it at the same time?
Oh, yeah.
Because you're all wasting money by the looks of this, as they said.
Yep.
I think 11 states still haven't expanded Medicaid on the Obamacare role. And so it just seems to me like the entire conversation, both on the left and right, is just, it's missing the key thing. And you're the way I love how you characterize it, John. I mean, what it does is says, let's talk about that key thing. Let's talk about where do you draw the line of what should belong in the catastrophic bin and not. And then I would add one more thing to that is, how can the market price the things that really we pay for care for? Right? I don't really care about the drugs I'm taking. What I care about is the outcome I get from taking the drugs that I take or don't take. And so if a doctor,
that's the big pharma thing, right? The generic drug versus the named drug. So the drug goes through a trial. Once it passes trial, then it is a, in quotes, named drug, right?
Yes.
So named drug A performs some task in relation to heart health, right? For hypertension, right? So it's on the market, and then eventually after X amount of time, depending
7 years, 7 to 10 years, depends on where. But normally 7 to 10 years,
right?
Yeah.
So it becomes generic, right? But for those 7 to 10 years, while it's proprietary and can only be, say, distributed by Bayer, right? We'll just say Bayer as a company that distributes medication. They have it for 7 years. They charge an exorbitant amount of money, and for those 7 to 10 years, they're proprietary. They're the only ones that get the money for the drug that does this specific thing, right? It's like an award. You found a thing, you researched it, boom, 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 you're good.
And our health system had a big issue with that. So what we have done with most medications is the minute a generic version of whatever drug it is comes on the market, our health system flips over to that, which lowers down our costs overall as well.
Right, it's the same thing that's done here. There are your insurance company will say you must use a generic unless the only thing available is the named drug, right?
Exactly.
But the thing is that for that entire time that they have that, they're getting massive dividends for it, for the named drugs because they can charge through the roof, right? So, and that's what he's talking about there. For a period of time, if you have this miracle, magical new drug that does a thing, then you get all the benefit of it, right?
Yep. And you see that quite a lot of, say, insulin, for instance, probably the cheapest drug that can actually possibly be manufactured by the pharmaceutical industry.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the price difference, say, between Canada, even your closest neighbor, and what you pay in the United States, it's 10 times the difference in pricing in some cases.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Even though it's manufactured in the United States, for the most part, exported over to Canada, and it's 10 to the cost.
Strange,
until they talk about the health industry and how much you get price gouged, or the elephant in the room. This will never change in America.
Yeah, and this is what Bhattacharya is bringing up. So
comes and gives me good advice that says, Jay, you don't need that surgery I would give you. And they get a good outcome. I get a good outcome as a result of that. That doctor ought to get paid at least as much or more than someone who does the surgery. If markets could change what they pay for, and it's actually a real mystery. I've been studying health economics for decades. I mean, I know almost 3 decades now.
Right. So here we're into a problem where if I get a service, I can see the service has been done. The doctor says you have a better outcome if you don't get the surgery. Well, they're not going to get paid because no service was provided except the expertise of the doctor who says, look, we don't need to insert a widget into your heart because you don't need a heart widget, right?
Exactly.
And the result is you are still healthy. You get a little more exercise, take something for your hypertension, you'll be fine. You don't need a widget in your heart. You're fine, right?
Yeah.
But that means that you're paying for subject matter expertise to understand when a thing needs to be done and doesn't need to be done. But you can't balance that versus the cost of putting the widget in somebody's heart that needs the widget, right? That's a problem.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true.
And I don't understand.
Go ahead.
It's funny to see that none of them are talking about, the health crisis yet, or how unhealthy people are in general.
You mean there's fat people? Is that what you mean?
Trying to find a polite way of saying that.
No, there's fat people, and they're not paying attention to their own selves, and they're not going outside and touching grass. And there's a lot more depression and mental health issues and all these other things, right? And it's not just that, oh, now we're aware of it. No, there are literally, it's more anxiety, more depression. It's just more prevalent, and not because we're seeing it, but because there is actually more of it.
And then it's sad, really, in this modern age that people are getting more and more unhealthy. And now that the population's got more and more unhealthy, the bill has kind of gone up for everyone. That's the way of putting it.
Yep. And there are some, I forget which one it was, but one of the online healthcare things or our mental health care things was using some equivalent of ChatGPT to do their therapy. And they got in trouble.
What?
Yeah.
They were using what?
Yeah, they were using ChatGPT or some of their AI engine to administer therapy to people, and they got caught. I cannot for the life of me remember who it was.
No.
Yeah, they got in big trouble.
Wasn't that the same as those lawyers getting caught by a judge using ChatGPT?
Yeah, because they were citing cases that didn't exist because they were putting in, I need a case that is going to say that I win, is pretty much what they put in.
They were pretty much doing it. But the sad thing is, both in fairness to the judge, he called out both the prosecution and the defense were both using AI. Yeah. And he caught them both out because he was actually a well-learned judge, been around the block a few times. He absolutely lambasted them from the fridge.
Bro, they had it coming. They were lazy. That was bullshit.
But yeah, they're both very lazy.
They practice law and use all the appropriate terms of art and make sure that there is precedent for the thing you're saying, not just ChatGPT making up something that happened in Iowa that applies to your case in Florida, which is, horse hockey.
I came across that recently. I was with a friend of mine and we were planning a trip. And we're talking about AI as well at the same time. He said, why don't we just use ChatGPT to plan our trip? I said, okay, that's grand. And it made a complete dog's dinner of it, is the best word I could describe it as.
It didn't go well. Did it try to send you to the middle of Montenegro or something?
I think this man, I live in one end of Ireland, and I said I want to go on such and such a place in Northern Ireland. Mm. And I was going, you get this bus, you go here, you go there. And I was listening out the times and I was going, there's no way I can travel from one end of Ireland to the other end of Ireland in an hour and a half by bus.
Oh my God. Oh man.
No matter how fast that bus is.
You need a helicopter. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Understand why markets do not move in that direction much more forcefully, other than that there are entrenched interests in government and in markets that benefit from the current structure that resist the movement to an equilibrium like that.
One of the pieces of the puzzle that I looked at in the past, and I'm sort of dredging some of these things up from memory, because the real tragedy is this debate, even this conversation you and I are having, it's nowhere to be found in our public discourse right now. As far as I can see, no one's talking about healthcare policy in a way that is trying to get at root problems. Which is bizarre.
The political discussion over health policy is just unreal to me. And it has been since the Obamacare debate, in one sense, was a real discussion. It led to, I think, evasion of the critical issue. Why is healthcare so expensive? And what to do to fix it? And and it tried to band-aid it over with this patch of expansion without addressing the cost problem at all. And so predictably, it has failed. Except again, I think except for the Medicaid expansion, which is tremendously, it's still quite inadequate given how many poor people don't really have the catastrophic care we're talking about.
Right, which is the most important piece of that puzzle. I can get through most things, but the catastrophic event, that black swan event, but not even really a black swan event, because statistically somebody's going to get whatever the thing is, right?
And I do agree with his point there is in all my years watching American politics, is no one has addressed the elephant in the room, as he said. Why is healthcare so expensive compared to the rest of the world?
It's insane. It is insanity. The amount that things cost.
And he's right. No one has talked about the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
And until they address that elephant in the room, people are going to keep paying through the nose.
Yeah, it's going to be bad.
Well, the closest analogy, it seems like, to it is, hey, we want more people to go to Stanford University. Let's provide all kinds of cheap loans for them to go to Stanford University. Oh, Stanford University still likes to tout the fact that not many people can get in. But now there's a lot more loan money subsidizing the tuition. So I guess we could raise the tuition, right?
I mean, I know that. I love that.
He's correct.
Yeah. And what's happened is it's that debate basically was the last time we had a real honest healthcare policy debate. I think it was like the Bernie Sanders thing, which tried to say, let's have single payer, as if the U.S. could possibly have like an NHS-like system. And it has the NHS has its own problems. It'd be importing a system that I think is alien to the United States. Almost 200 million people get health insurance through their employer, and you're going to take that away from them. The organs, the kind of care that they normally used to get is going to be reorganized entirely. I mean, I think that's just a political non-starter.
So the other thing with that is a lot of companies in the United States hire people part-time as opposed to hiring them full-time. The Walmart people and all that, right?
We have the same over here as well.
So
hire them part-time, so the state can pay. Well, probably in America as well, the same as here, is a lot of retail, NGOs, people like that normally hire people on a part-time contract and let the state pay for the rest, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, 100%.
They usually
100%. Yeah.
And it's probably the same over there, is it?
Mm-hmm. Same thing. Writ large, because we have, I don't know, over 300 million people, and you have about 5 or 6. So
but roughly the same system is a lot of companies take advantage of the 0-hour contracts, say for example, or the part-time contracts, to hire a bunch of cheap labor and get the state to pick up the rest of the bill, as they say.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very, very bad system.
100%.
And companies should be penalized. By the way, companies should be made pay for health insurance for all their employees, part-time or full-time.
That way you would hire more full-time people to get the job done.
Exactly.
Right? But the problem with that is then you have career people who are going to be there. And in the United States, like many other places, they will start to have unions, because that's what happens. When you get a lot of people that are like, hey, you need to pay for healthcare, but they can't do it if they're not full-time employees. Right? There isn't part-time employee unions. When they try to do that with those small retail places, like little coffee companies that have 4 or 5 spots, the people who own those companies are like, well, I've made enough money. I'm going to shut this down completely, kill the LLC, and then restart it again and just do it all over, Yeah, that's how that ends up working. There was a place up in Portland that did that. They had like 5 stores, and they all unionized, and they said, you're going to pay us more money. And the folks what owned it said, nope.
Was you sitting on that video? I think it was definitely you sitting on that video. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there going, he shut down the company, fired them out, and then rehired it. And then he actually turned around and opened up somewhere else. But
because the labor costs became prohibitive. Like the coffee joints out here, like they hire lots and lots of young kids, and all the young kids will work literally 15 to 20 hours a week. And then they have to, as opposed to getting one job at one coffee shop, they end up getting 2 or 3 coffee jobs, and then having to manage their schedules across all 2 or 3 of the places where they're working to sling the caffeine, right? And it's like that with I don't know, fast food joints and stuff like that. And since California raised the minimum wage to 20, there's a ton more automation. Like most times you're not going to get a cashier to take your order. You're going to order from a kiosk, right? Because you're going to get the super special burger with, Thousand Island sauce on it and a large fry and a beverage of some sort. Nobody needs to take that order if you can just pop it into the kiosk. Yeah. You can even identify if you want extra onions and no pickles,
Yeah, I see that actually, the automation thing. I see that in a couple of in the city there recently enough, and said like some McDonald's and place like that. You see the little kiosk just inside the door. So I wouldn't have a. I wouldn't have an old nose at this. Yeah. Well, the one I was looking at was just inside the door. You go in, you press all the buttons, and then your little number will come up, and you go to the counter, and off you go.
Yes.
So they're cutting down on staff in a lot of ways. Even in here, they're cutting down on staff. So no, yeah, you're right. An awful lot of automation, getting rid of small jobs like that.
Yeah, and
they should be looking. A lot of these kids should be looking to have jobs if they think about it.
Right, but again, they're still not going to make enough money to break it even. And when you add on top of that the cost of healthcare, and the state ends up bearing the burden. And the other thing that happens when the minimum wage goes to 20 and they can't afford it. So you had 10 kids that had a job at $14 an hour, but now you're only going to have 4 people that have a job at $20 an hour, and still none of them are going to be full-time either. So the net gain is none. It's a lot of people now don't have jobs, and they have to work at something to get something else, right? And they're not going out and getting a skill, and it's really hard to get experience when you can't get hired because the state has regulated what should be a contract between an employer and a possible employee, right?
Yeah. Well,
it doesn't make sense in the context of the United States. It may make sense in the context of the UK, but it does not make sense here. So, and since that, we've had no real political conversation over the right health policy. And COVID, I think, it's just made things completely. I mean, that it's an unreal thing. Huge numbers of people don't trust their doctors anymore.
Yeah.
Huge numbers of people don't. I mean, the healthcare system is at large. I've never seen trust so low. The pharmaceutical companies are in disrepute. Governments are in disrepute. We have real problems that I don't know how to solve in terms of restoring trust. And then after that, like, how do you do the fundamental reforms of?
Well, it's more than stigma. It's you failed.
Yeah.
Right? It isn't. It's not. I don't trust you because of some strange stigma. It's because you failed. Right.
But it's also But you also have to admit that there's a lot of misinformation around the health system as well.
For sure. 100%.
And the problem is, especially when people stop taking vaccines, say measles, mumps, and rubella, and so on. And the fact that measles now is on the rise again because people who are unvaccinated get the people who are vaccinated sick, and it's a whole thing at the moment.
And the ones who got vaccinated are going to get a worse cases because when it hits them even harder.
It's very I think people who are me personally, if you want to get vaccinated or non-vaccinated, it's completely up to yourselves. I always agree that it should be freedom of choice. But if you get sick and you had a way of preventing yourself getting sick, you should pay for yourself being sick.
Yes. If there was a remedy provided or a preventative measure, yes, for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
Healthcare system so that they work again, work for the first time. That's a conversation we should be having, but are not.
Where do you see the most optimism? Where are you the most positive about the future?
John, I think there's a coalition of people, and it's growing in size, who understand that the pandemic response was a catastrophic failure. Now, that seems like a strange basis for optimism, but I think it brings that idea that we've had this failure of experts in this way has brought together a potentially large political coalition and creativity to reform elements of the system that so clearly are broken. And so that's where my optimism is, like seeing the grassroots movement that toppled the vaccine mandates for OSHA, for instance, or
right. So we're going to go ahead and close it up on that note right there. He's right.
Yeah.
Seeing something fail horribly will make you try to fix it in the future, and then maybe reduce your stigma and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, even in my own country, our response to COVID, has shown us the weakness in our health systems across the board. Like the fact that, especially in a lot of G20 countries, we've put so little resources into a lot of these, like a lot of private companies are not great at managing the health systems.
Right. Well, and it was way oversold for what it was. In 3 or 4 weeks, we should have been able to see, hey, here's what's going on. But somehow it just got worse and worse and locked down further and further and further. And it didn't get better until it functionally, one day people were like, you know what? Yeah, we're done with that. Whatever it was, now it's just a heavy cold. Like, we're done with it. Like, stop, So.
Yeah.
All right. If you ain't got anything more, partner, what do you got? Anything?
No, that's it. That's it. I think we'll finish up at that point.
All right.
No.
This was Arc 2 with Jay Bhattacharya on Dad Saves America with TheA&P. I am Alex Johansson, and for Patrick McCallum, we would like you to subscribe, ring the bell, do all the things. Help us beat the algorithm. We are out.